And he researched it, but so did Cropper. That was it. And then the war began.
Yeah. Well, he just went and did it.
He was the guy I interviewed first. He was, I forget his name. What was his name? Do you remember?
Steve something, wasn't it?
And
they took it. See, they say Kentucky goes to the riverbank, so he took the rock without any permission, and they were going to throw his ass in prison.
He didn't think he needed permission. It was his job to dredge it. Right. Didn't realize it was an artifact, and it was a question on whether it was an artifact. Right. That's why it almost went to the Supreme Court.
Yep. Okay, big dog. Let's do it again here. Drink back drop. Applying the royal thirds.
That's good. I know it.
Okay. Questions for Randy O on Indian Head Rock. Here we go. Had you ever heard of Indian Head Rock before it was removed?
No.
Just preface that, I've never heard of it.
No, I'd never heard of it. I got a call from some people that were upset that somebody that was dredging out the river there right at Portsmouth had unearthed this big rock, and they said that there was something famous or historic about it, and would I come out and see it? It sounded interesting, so I went.
Did it seem to be more of a Kentucky historical item? Hold on a minute.
What's that fucking train went by?
Yeah. You ever notice there's always something?
I remember when Johnny Lang was playing how the train went by, and he goes, he's switching the train time, and he switched the song, and he used the train as brakes.
That's cool.
He was awesome. All right. Oh.
Them some bitches go on for 5 miles over there. What is that like when that sounds like it's like the brakes locked up or something?
That's just the wheels on the track.
Crazy. Ridiculous. I don't even like this guy.
I hate this motherfucker.
I can tell.
Just gonna let you know. Oh yeah, we did. Now there's been no what's called spontaneous kick him in the face.
Okay.
Here we go. Back to this, the second question. Did it seem to be more of a Kentucky historical item or a Portsmouth, Ohio historical item? Preface that.
I think it seemed to be more of a Portsmouth, Ohio historical item, because once I started researching that, I found out that on a Sunday afternoon in 1900, more people would get in their little canoes and rowboats and with their parasols and the guys in their ties and go over there when the rock was up to like go by it and sit on it or have a picnic near it. A lot more people came from Portsmouth than came from South Shore area, so it seemed like a Portsmouth thing to me.
When the story of the rock came into your newsroom at WSAZ, what did you initially think about it being removed from the river?
Well, you just, you wanted to find out why it was removed from the river. And I remember it was a dredging crew that pulled it out and saw then these inscriptions on it and researched it. And then the guy that owned this dredging crew decided to get historically involved as well. And finding him, I interviewed him right off the bat, and that's when I got the call from the Cropper guy in Kentucky that said, no, it's ours. And that's when the Indian Head Rock fight began.
Your piece, your news piece on the rock was one of the first on TV and outside of the print. Do you feel your story helped the rock drama increase and gain national media attention? Big
time, and this is way before social media, so it didn't get shared or liked or any of that stuff. It was just way back when. But it got seen because it went out on the NBC station feed, so the 200 NBC affiliates could look at that story because they thought it was interesting, and they were putting some of my stories on that feed. So any station of the 200 NBC stations around the country, a lot of people looked at it, and that's how it gained some national attention, from my story.
Where did the angle war between the states come from? Was that from your producers, or was that already being used in the print media about the rock?
Neither. It was from me. Producers.
Preface that, because that's the
yeah. Well, there was a guy from Kentucky and these people from Ohio, and they were fighting over a rock that was in the middle. You know, one time I was writing, and you just want to be creative, and I said war between the states. It was obvious, and other people picked that up. Some other journalists I know, Frankfurt, Louisville, picked that up a little bit, but that wasn't from a producer, and it wasn't from some outside source. I wrote it first.
How many pieces on TV did you do about the rock and its removal? Then the trial that followed against Schaefer.
I think I did. Yeah, Schaefer, that was his name. I must have done a half a dozen pieces on the rock, if not more. I went to Frankfurt when there was a rally, a rock rally in the Capitol at the Rotunda. And that's when, you know, all the legal issues began, because they were filing the papers there. They wanted that rock. And then it was just, you know, when I'd go and shoot it, it was just in some musty old corner in the Portsmouth City garage. And if you've been in the Portsmouth City garage, it's a pretty dirty place. No offense to those guys. I mean, you know, it's a garage, and they work really hard, and there's a low staff in there, so they don't have a chance to clean all the soot and grime off. And so it was just a big old fat rock, and there was this little gold thing with the barrier around it. It was kind of an oxymoron that this nasty rock in this dirty building had this gold ring around it. So, you know, what's wrong with this picture?
In all the years of journalism, was this one of the strangest stories you've ever covered? Did the local tri-state area seem to like this story and preface it?
Oh, they loved it. Did the local media love this story? I mean, wait.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, did our viewers like this story?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a two-part question. In all your years of journalism, was this one of the strangest stories that you've ever done? And then did the local tri-state area seem to like this story?
It was, this story was a strange one. I mean, it had a life of its own. It went on and on. I've covered a couple of strange ones before, you know. These mules that worked at technology, a team of mules, a team oxen. For some reason, I've worked teams of mules and teams of oxen, and I love those stories. But the Indian Head Rock, yes, it was one of the strangest stories that I ever did, because there was this statehood that was the battle, and it was just over this big fat rock, but it was in history books, and it was just, you know, it was something that you could stay with. And yeah, did people like it? Yeah, they loved it. They ate it up. If it was now on social media, I mean, it would be viral. It would be on the Today Show, and it may have made that anyways, but it would be, you know, on the 24/7 news cycle big time.
What are your thoughts on the Indian Head Rock now, almost 10 years later?
The best story about the Indian Head Rock is Steve Hayes, my good buddy and the program director and morning show host out of the big station in Portsmouth, and we're close. And I used to do a call-in show with him, and it was April Fool's Day. And we had planned this in a little bit in advance, and this was done right in the middle of the contention. And we said, oh my God, it was about 4 in the morning, and the police came over from Kentucky with a big flatbed and a crane grabber, and they took the rock. And the rock is now in Greenup County. And oh my God, and I said, can you verify this? And I said, from best sources that I have, you know, we were tongue-in-cheek, and it was an April Fool's joke. I got called on the carpet. My news director and my general manager brought me in and said, how dare you, this is a news story, there's court cases in this, and you're talking about getting stolen by police, and it wasn't, and stuff. I said it was an April Fool's joke on a fool's radio station in the morning, and he said a half hour later, he goes, did you ever hear War of the Worlds? So I mean, that's how passionate people were about this rock. We did an April Fool's joke, and I got a note put in my personal record.
It's awesome. Okay. Bobby Carpenter, the Greenup County Judge Executive, would like to find a good home for the rock. Where do you feel that the home should be?
Portsmouth, I guess. Where should the rock be? I'm not even sure where it is right now. I forgot. But where should it end up with? They should make a nice little plaque. put about 3/4 of it in Portsmouth, chip off a chunk, put that on a pedestal and make a plaque and put that on the other side of the river, because more people from Portsmouth came and about 1/4 of the people from South Shore came, so they get 3/4, they get 1/4, and everybody's happy.
It's in the county garage.
Whose county?
Ours.
Ours?
County garage, yeah.
It's in the Green County garage.
Why did the rock story garner so much national media attention?
Maybe that war between the states line. Why did the rock garner so much national media attention? Because it had people that were passionate about something that was inanimate, you know, an inanimate object, and they were passionate about a big, fat rock. And that's a juxtaposition that's always amazed the public for decades.
Did you know that this case, from what I'm told, is well, they got a train coming. Quick, just sum it up. How would you sum it up, this rock stuff?
Huh? It was fun to cover.